All right, so we're just waiting for people to join us in the webinar. So let's just give it a couple of minutes for the attendees to join us. Yeah? Hi to everyone that's joining us. Let's just give it just a couple more minutes for more people to join before we actually start. All right. All right. Okay. So, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us in today's webinar. My name is Shalene. I'm heading channel partnership at HReasily, and I'm delighted to be facilitating today's webinar. So before we begin, I would like to thank everyone who takes the time today to join us, and I hope everybody's well and safe in light of this current situation. So today, we are very excited to present you Successful Talent Management in a Cost-Cutting Environment, a webinar brought to you by Mazars in Singapore and HReasily with our featured guest speaker from Xero Singapore. Now, along the way, you can submit your questions in the question box below and we'll get back to you on the later part of the panel discussion. Now, first up, without further ado, first up, we have Iris from Mazars. Iris is the Associate Director HR for Mazars in Singapore with more than 20 years of experience spanning across areas such as corporate secretarial, business development, human resources, and an educator specializing in teaching HR at a tertiary level. So without further ado, I'll pass you into very capable hands of Iris from Mazars in Singapore.
Thank you, Charlene. Hope you guys can hear me well. Just let me share my screen. Okay, so I hope you guys can see my screen well enough. Yeah. Okay, thank you, Charlene, again. A very good afternoon to everyone. I'm Iris from Mazars, as Charlene has introduced. Thank you so much for taking your time off today to participate in this webinar. Especially today, right? Very special day, 11/11. I think some of us wish we are somewhere else doing something else today, on this special day. Well, yes, thank you again for being here. I do believe that during this last maybe 6 months, 10 months, it has been very challenging for most of us. And today I thought, I would like to share something about talent management in this current situation, and some of the ideas and some initiatives that have been planned. And just for you to consider, maybe this is something that your firm would like to take away or consider how we can actually during this period not to lose our talents prematurely, right? As we sit tight and watch where this pandemic is going to lead us. I think we need a slightly longer runway to see where we'll be going before we can make important decisions or drastic decisions in terms of talent management, right? But before I dive into that, to give me a few seconds to quickly introduce Mazars to all of you guys, if you've not heard about us before. Mazars, we are international audit, tax, and advisory company, a firm which presents over more than 90 countries and territories at this moment. We work with a huge pool of professionals. Under the Mazars umbrella, we have about 24,000 professional staff. And with that, we also have North American alliances that actually top up another 20,000 or so in terms of professional service staff. And we leverage on expertise and skills and cultural understanding across all the regions, all right, and work very closely as one integrated team. Right, in Singapore, basically, we do have quite a nice pool of professional staff here, about 245 people and 14 partners locally, servicing a holistic array of professional services such as audit, accounting, outsourcing, financial advisory, etc. Yeah. And what's interesting about us, one key difference between us and other firms in the same industry is that basically we are not on a franchise scheme. We pride ourselves as one integrated partnership. So we do collaborate very closely with all our other offices around the world, and hopefully to create a very positive and successful collaborations with our clients as well. Yeah, and in this brand manifesto, recently we just launched a new branding, and together with this new branding, and it's been part and parcel of our key DNA, we really want to show that we care in all aspects, not just towards our staff, but also with our client as we work closely with our client as well. So and other people's stakeholders within our circle. So I think care is something that we really want to showcase in whatever things that we take forward and move forward with. Of course, that is translated into our local care DNA as well. So we are pleased, or I'm pleased to share that we are actually winning our 4th win as HR Asia Best Company to Work For in Singapore. So that is Mazars in a nutshell for all of you guys. So if you want to know more about us, do check out on our website. Now, without further ado, let me dive into today's topic. All right. So today, basically, I thought maybe I will start off. All right. All of us on a little reflection journey to really do a stock take as to what has happened over the last maybe 6 months, 10 months, or the whole year of 2020. And with that, right, it will lead me to the key of my presentation today, where I'll be focusing on 3 key areas that maybe it will be helpful for companies to take away to look at how they can better cost manage. All right. So I think one of the crucial costs that all of us are very concerned with, or one of the crucial costs in most organizations, definitely will be the manpower costing. Right. So let me just go straight into the topic. Right. So let's go through this little journey with me. Yeah. So I want you all to reflect as I'm going to slowly list through the next 5 or 6 questions. All right. So during the last few months of the year 2020, how many of you actually felt that your workplace has really changed? I mean, I wanted to do the raise hand thingy, but I think my content is very heavy. I'm running out of time. So I just going to run through the question. All right. Just say a yes or no to yourself as I show you through the list of questions here. So how many of you really feel that your workplace has changed? All right. How many feel that your work style has changed over this period of time? How many of you actually feel that overall your life have also changed? Yeah. Or maybe, right, in this whole series of months and 2020, your thinking have also changed. And last but not least, some of you might feel that everything has changed. Or worse still, right, like myself, I can't even remember what life was even before 2020. Well, but let's accept the fact that, well, this is really what's happening. A lot of things have been thrown in our direction the last 6 months, 8 months, or 10 months that have taken us off guard. And but in this change process, maybe something good has developed, right? Maybe a new norm has developed. Maybe we're propelled to do things that we never thought we'd do before, right? So in a nutshell, what exactly have changed? I'll put it very simply in this slide, right? So I think for many of us, we find that, well, one thing for sure, our co-workers have changed over this period of time, yeah? So it's no longer our colleagues per se, right? Many of us found new co-workers at home, right? And with that also, it also means that our work and our life are now really intertwined, incorporated together, right? Sometimes, it's so much so that it becomes a bit blurry, what is work, what is life, and, what happening next and what comes first, all in a blurry area in the last few months, yeah? And of course, sadly, as much as we enjoy the human interaction, a lot of our closeness with our colleagues, with our peers, right, with our bosses, with our supervisors or managers, that have been replaced by the coldness of the gadgets, right? So now we are not dealing with people, but we are sitting in front of our laptop, of our PC, of our phone, our iPad, whatsoever, and we're interacting through that little gadget that's in front of us. So our gadgets as humans are nowadays are so closely merged together that it's very difficult, right, to find a differentiation or a separation from that. So to many employees, to many of us, this is what life is now, right, for a good period of months, right? So this is the new work norm, where everything, work and life are a little bit blurry. We are using a lot more of the gadgets to ensure that we can deliver our job and ensure our results are being produced as well. Yeah, but does it make a difference for your managers and your bosses as well? Well, I think definitely there is. All right, as much as we feel that our life has changed, but our life for our dear managers and bosses definitely have changed as well, right? So I give them a new title. So every one of the managers and the bosses that you have in your company now will have the word remote in front of their title. Yeah, so they are also trying to adapt and struggling to adapt to this new title that they have called a remote manager. So as a manager, from a manager perspective, managing people remotely is definitely very challenging. Sometimes even with before pre-COVID time, when we're managing our colleagues, we're working closely with our subordinates, our bosses, it's already there is already some level of challenge there when you see the person, let alone when you don't see, don't feel, don't hear the person. So so they might be struggling whether also thinking, is the stuff really there? If you can recall right at the beginning of the whole circuit breaker period, right? Many of us, hop onto Zoom, hop onto Teams, or different platform to host our meeting. And what I show in this particular graphic, right? You see, week 1, everybody's still showing their face, happily online. It was refreshing, right? We're talking online and communicating online. And then when we dive into the second month, into the circuit breaker period or working from home, our screen start to turn black, right? With just little memes appearing. And I think by now, months after, many of us don't even bother to turn on the video anymore. So basically, when we talk, when we present, when we discuss, we are just hearing the voice. We don't know how the person react, etc., etc. Right. So this is something that the managers have to cope with, and the bosses have to cope with as well. And back to the office, we are also, very concerned, with the empty offices or the half-filled offices. If it's empty, the rental cost and issue will come to mind. If it's filled, the safety measure practices will come to mind as well in case MOM officers decide to pay you a visit in the office, etc., etc. So basically, if you are looking in a nutshell, many things have changed, not only from the employee perspective, but also from the employer perspective. So basically, that's let me sum up what has changed. So office is no longer a place of work, right? I would like to see office now as a place of collaboration. We'll go into the office with a purpose, with an intention, right? We go in to get certain documents done, certain meetings face-to-face done. We go in with a mission and a purpose nowadays when we go into the office. So, and of course, that also means that work is no longer about 9 to 5. It's not about going into the office at 9 o'clock, clocking out at 6 p.m. In the evening. Work is really about outcome, about results. So that again have also disrupted the way we are doing things a little bit. Yeah. And what else have changed? This one I felt that's very important. Recently, we did a company climate survey, and we realized that communication, this word keep coming out. When we ask the question, what is one of the biggest challenge, or what you really feel that it could be improved upon? So the communication word keep coming out as one of the suggested answers, meaning that basically what is happening now is that communication signals are really no longer the same. All right, it's no longer as strong as used before because we have lost some signal. Now, when you talk about communication, not just about voice, right? It's not about words, it's not about email, but communication comes with the unspoken and the seen communication, which in short, a body language. So the signal, that chemistry, that little tweak of the eyes or the hands or the body, actually sending out a lot of signal that we have taken for granted. But now we are losing all that. So communication itself has to also be rewired all over again. What else have changed? Of course, workflow and processes is no longer work as before, right? Everything has to be online. But one thing for sure has stayed quite stagnant, or I would say quite stagnant, quite the same, or even enhanced further, is actually cost. Cost is always on our agenda, right? And especially now, all right, cost is even more on our agenda, but it's no longer clearly predictable. So we are not sure how long this particular situation is going to last, and which industry is going to be suddenly very doing very well, or which industry is going to be very affected over the next few months, 3 months, 6 months. So cost become a very crucial, very sensitive item that we need to look at, right? So that will bring me pretty much today into my key content, right? So basically, I hope I will, basically, I'm going to focus on 3 key areas, all right? And before I look at that, basically, I would like to share this, right? A wise man used to tell me, all right, I'm going to say in Chinese, I will translate it in English in a short while, right? Actually, he's my very first boss, really a mentor and a teacher that I very much appreciated at the very early part of my career, right? He's Chinese educated, so he speaks to us very much a lot in Chinese. So he ever said this word, when we're hitting the 1980s when there was a financial crisis. He said this in Chinese. I'm going to translate it in English in a short while. 危机有危必有机. What he's trying to say is tell us is that don't be worried about a crisis. Whenever there's a crisis, there will be opportunity. That's how the 2 Chinese words is being placed together, right? So I think that has actually, I kept that dearly in my mind because, and throughout my whole career, I went through many cycles of a slight recession here, major recession there, a pandemic at this moment. So I think it was really a very true sharing by my ex-boss. Whenever there's a crisis, there will be opportunity. And during at this period, I feel that a lot of us, right, have been shocked through this whole pandemic situation. And because of this shock, many of our mechanism has to be rewired and rethink. As a matter of fact, I think it's a good thing that came out of this pandemic. Why? Because it's kind of opened doors for us. We are more susceptible. We are more, willing or more open-minded in a sense to really look at new possibility during this period in order for us to work out of this pandemic a little bit stronger, right? So with that, let me just focus back on my 3 R's. Today, these 3 R's I'm going to share. Basically, my intention is to share the idea or the concept or the message to say that don't just do things the old way, right? We look at things from a very different perspective. Maybe it's time to take this opportunity to review and do some changes because your people now are more ready for change. Your people now may be more open to new ideas, which last time they were very, where they put a very strong defense and that they will say no to, right? So let's do something during this period, and maybe with that restructuring and redesigning, right, it can bring us in on a better platform when this whole pandemic is over, right? So the 3 R's that I'm going to share today, basically, first, I'll be looking at the reconfiguration of the the workforce, right? So we could look at what happens if there is really excess manpower and what happens if you don't have enough manpower. Do we still react the same old way as we used to be before 2020 and recruit or retrench or fire like we used to be? Maybe not. So we're going to look at a reconfiguration of the workforce. Next, I'm also going to look at the redesign of the modern workplace. All right. So, like it or not, so-called the future workspace or the workplace is already here. So, how do we adapt? And is there help that we can tap on to help us to move towards a modern workplace and a modern work environment moving forward in our near future? And last but not least, this one, I think everybody is aware, the government is driving it very hard as well about reskilling and upskilling. All right, so I think this also allow us actually manage our manpower costs indirectly. So I will share a little bit about how we go into training and development to manage our manpower costs as well. All right. I hope I'm speaking not too fast, yeah. So I have quite a few slides to go, so bear with me, yeah. So if any question, any area that you're not clear, we can do it. You can actually ask me question at the end of all the presentation. All right. So the first one up, the reconfiguration of the workforce. So what happens when you have too many? All right. Do we just go straight and just say, okay, we have too many, fine, let's fire, let's terminate? No, that is not what the government is trying to promote. Neither do I, as a HR person or people who are practicing HR, I seriously, do not promote this particular concept of firing to reduce the headcount, to reduce the cost, right? Because I think what the government has said is really true, right? It's important to preserve jobs and take a longer term view because in some industry, right, when you retrench or you fire your staff and when market pick up in a very short window, you may not have enough time to actually train a pool of talents or train skilled staff in order for them to manage the growing business and help you to drive the business a bit further, right? And of course, the government is also pushing for building the Singapore core. So let's also bear that in mind when we're looking at how do we deal in terms of excess manpower. On the flip side, for the lucky few companies who are doing very well during this period, do not just replace, right? Just, if you have 10 vacancies, just don't think, okay, never mind, it's okay, I have 10 vacancies, just employ, right? Think a little bit long term as well. Take this chance to rethink, to reconfigure, and ask yourself, is there a way to achieve the number of headcounts and the number of pairs of hands and the talents that are wanted, right? But yet at the same time, right, maintain a certain level of flexibility, maintain a certain level of, so that you'll be fluid enough to react if situation take another downturn, all right, in the next few years, okay? So I'm going to go into each one of these in the next few slides, and let's see what are some of the help and what are some of the costs that you can take into consideration to manage this area. Right, let's look at the very first one, too many. Right, so there's a few ways you can handle when you have too many staff, all right? Now, the very first one is when you have too many staff, okay, let's go with the most mild reaction and the most mild impact on the employees, right? So when you have too many staff, we look at in terms of the scope and the role of the staff, all right? There's a few things that you can do. First and foremost, just don't focus on just that staff. Just don't think that the staff only have that capability, but instead, when I put on the table the whole company structure, all the division, all the companies, all the offices that you have, all the branches that you have locally or regionally. And then you ask yourself, right, is there a chance that we can think about redeployment? Redeployment within and across your own branches or offices or companies or even within the department. Now, a lot of time we're saying that, hey, no, I cannot transfer someone from finance to do sales, right? But the question is that if someone from finance, all right, your finance background, they've been in the company for a while, they understand your culture, your company directions, your company, vision, right? And the person is open to the idea of doing a job switch during this period. Why not, right? At least he's half trained. At least he's already aware and know exactly where the company is going. So the question is that how to equip that person with the sales skills so that he can do and hop over to the other side of the fence. Yeah. So think redeployment. All right. Think also the concept about flexible work schedule. When you don't have enough jobs, what do? Right? You can actually practice what the government has launched, the idea and the concept of time banking. Right. So basically what you do is that the excess hour that is not work is being credited into a time bank. And when business pick up, when there's extra work needs to be done, right? Then when there's OT that needs to be done, then these hours that's being credited into the time bank can be reduced progressively, right? So in this way, basically the employee salary is not affected during the initial period. Of course, these few measures as mentioned here has no impact on the wages or the salary of the employee. So the company continues to pay the wage to ensure that employees have enough income to manage their monthly expenses whatsoever. But in return, whatever work that's not done has been credited or posted somewhere for future use. Yeah. And last but not least, without touching our wages, we can also encourage clearing of earned leave. Although clearing of the leave seems that there's no impact, just clearing leave, but no, each day of leave is earned leave, which means that it actually costs the company money. So while you have some downtime and we have some a period for breathing, maybe it's good to get the employee to clear the leave so that they will use up their leave whatsoever. And when business pick up, then they'll be more ready, more recharged to be back helping the company to run the business. Yeah. The next category will actually have a bit of an impact on the wages or the salary of the employee. All right. Okay, these are the few areas that you can think of. You can look at, is there a possibility to combine the job? Can I compress the job, have a shorter work week, or even have the concept of job sharing? So that means one single job shared by 2%, 3%. Each one of them will have reduced working hours, right? And that reduced working hours will be taken off in terms of the monthly salary. So there's actually a slight wage cut in terms of this arrangement, right? Or at the same time, you can also practice a one-off temporary layoff, right? So this is a 1 month kind of thing whereby someone is put on 1 month temporary layoff during that period. So the person is entirely don't have to work. However, based on the requirement, we are still obliged to pay the employee 50% of the pay. But that also reduces your manpower cost by 50%. All right. So that will give you some relief during that period. Right. Next one, this one is a bit of a long-term plan. It's a direct wage adjustment. I'm not sure how many of you are familiar, all right, with the concept of flexible wage system. All right, it is an old concept. It's not new. It's been here. It's been around since the 1980s, 1990s. Not many companies on board of this, right? But we are encouraged to do that. All right. In the next slide, I explain to you how this whole flexible wage system works and why it actually helps to manage not only the company manpower cost. Actually, on the other side, the advantage is it helps to manage the employee expectation as well as perception as well. So I think it's a very good scheme that we can really look at and see whether we can implement that within the organization, right? Last but not least, in the event that whatever that I mentioned earlier on, you have tried or it doesn't work in your environment, in your circumstances, then we can actually try to also to push a little bit of no pay leave into the system. So basically, bottom line is all these 4 cost saving measures that I've just mentioned. The intention is to hold on to the employee. All right. I think it's a vicious cycle, right? So if we start our retrenchment and we start to terminate a lot of employees, and then these people are without job, they wouldn't be able to put food on the table. And if they won't be able to put food on the table, then there will not the expenses and the expenditure pattern of the consumer will have dropped. And if that drop, business is affected as well. So it's a vicious cycle. So that is why our government is always telling us, hold on to the job, hold on to the job. Retrenchment should be your last resort because we want to make sure that everybody has enough to have basic expenses being covered. Right. So so this is my first portion on some of the cost saving measures. Yeah. So let me dive into the flexible wage system that I mentioned earlier on. Okay. So what is the whole concept about this flexible wage system? Now, as I mentioned, there is certain advantage to this system. Okay, not so much in terms, not just about helping the company to manage costs, but I think having a very clear, layered uh, uh, pay structure in the organization will also prepare employees very well in terms of what is to come next. I think a lot of time during instability, during crisis period, one of the biggest stress to employees is basically their inability to anticipate what's coming next. All right, so they get very stressed with what's the company going to do. Is the company going to fire me, etc., etc. So this flexible wage system basically how it works is right. So we're going to layer the cost structure, right? So let's use the annual pay package of 100,000 for example for simplicity. Yeah. So 100,000 annual package, this is what you have budgeted for the cost of this particular headcount. Please do not just take 100,000 divided by 12 and give to the employee, but layer it. How do we layer it? First, seven, for example, I use the rank and file as explanation. So first and foremost, 70% of the 100,000, which is the 70,000, that should be divided by 12, and that becomes your monthly fixed wages, right? And 10% of 100,000 is 10,000, that becomes a monthly variable component, which based on certain indicator and things that's happening, right? Say, for example, the company make losses for 3 months in a row consecutively. That's the first red flag that's being raised. So this might be a one layer that the company can take away. And it has been communicated very clearly to employees. Employees will realize, oh, okay, we are going into the third month. So I anticipate next month, maybe I'll have a 10% pay cut, right? So this communication is important as well. And the balance 20% is your bonus. Again, certain indicators to tell the staff at which stage will you get bonus and which stage will you not. So when they are really prepared and understood how this works, they will plan their expenses. If they are going to the third month of loss making the organization, they'll say, I better cut my expense. I don't spend so much. I don't take the next tour, take the next cruise, or buy the next thing. I just save the money for rainy days. Yeah. So this whole concept of flexible wage systems is really available on MOM website. So you might want to take a look at how this will impact. And for companies who are cutting wages now, right, when you put back and add back the wages after the business takes a better turn, right, you might want to consider to incorporate the flexible wage system into your whole payroll or remuneration package system. Yeah, right. So what happens when you have too little employees? All right. So as I mentioned, please do not just replace them. There are a lot of options that give you a little longer runway before you make a decision. Like for example, right, the traineeship program that's been launched, right? Some of you may have already missed the traineeship, fresh graduate traineeship program, but there's still another one that's ongoing, which is the mid-career traineeship program. So this program comes with a fixed timeline, 9 months, 10 months, or 12 months program, all right? So with that in mind, at least you say, okay, I can try this headcount for the next 5 months, 6 months, 9 months, 12 months. And then only when I'm ready, or if this candidate is really good and prove that it's really suitable for the role, then I convert it to a permanent headcount, right? So the same go with professional conversion program, which are mid-career people who want to change industry, so they can pick up a skill. You pay for the course fee, which is highly subsidized, and then in return, they'll work for a company with and their salary is also subsidized by the relevant authority, right? So these are some of the other things, right? Career trial, rank and file PMAX. So these are some of the programs that you can really explore to see whether you with this program you can add on some headcount, all right, in the short term to evaluate them to see their fit into your organization before you decide whether is this headcount is going to be a permanent headcount and a permanent cost for the company. All right. So this is the first part. Right. Then second point that I want to bring about is about the redesign of the modern workplace. So as mentioned earlier on, we are being forced into a situation that our future workplace is already here, right? So we are looking at certain concept or idea of how do we reconfigure, right, our new workplace. Okay, so let's look at the 3 areas: work environment, work arrangement, as well as job redesign. And rest assured, you are not alone on this journey. These 3 things that I'm going to mention next basically come with a lot of funding and support. Okay, first let's look at the work environment. All right, I think with the current COVID situation, many of us is being thrown into a world of we have to digitalize a lot of things. We have to go into RPA, all right, robotic processes and automation, right? But we are not alone, as I mentioned. All right, if you go and check up on Enterprise Singapore website, we realize that there's a lot of funding available for SME as well as non-SME companies. All right, and this funding go beyond just digitalization. It comes in all forms and sizes, even consultancy funding or even HR funding, even of course digitalization funding, even for new setup funding. So do spend some time for some of you guys who are interested in these areas, explore the Enterprise Singapore grants. And also the funding even will have funding to help you to change the mindset of our people to accept that this is what the new workplace is going to look like. All right. And also in terms of the office environment, we also need to also think about our new office layout. If some of you are moving office at this period, right? So open concept may not be the in thing now because of COVID-19, the open concept is just going to expose everyone. So hot desking, is it really the in thing now? Should we continue a hot desking concept? Maybe not. All right. So do also consider your work environment has to change. Yeah. On top of that, your work arrangement also has to change. Internally, I think all of us have to agree that telecommuting, work from home is going to be part and parcel of our life, all right? And with that, there are actually grants available to help you to implement flexible work arrangement, right? There are also grants available for you to tap on IT tools and resources in the market. And so look at this grant to help you to reconfigure, all right, and your work arrangement internally, right? And if this is not done, then another option basically is to look at possibility outsourcing services, right? A lot of companies are very sensitive and very careful in adding on fixed costs into the organization at this moment. So during this transitional period, or maybe it's a viable for a longer term, you might want to consider outsourcing and even offshoring for potential, because this will give you a potential continuity of the business, right? Well, you don't have to bring in additional headcount to keep the business going. Yeah. So think about that internally, externally. Last but not least, work job redesign. Now, with the change, some of the firm, some jobs are lost. New job scope develop surface, right? So with that, there's also help that is available for companies to look at how you can actually embark on a job redesign journey. The consultant will come in and work together with you to look at the framework for your industry and see what kind of job or what kind of evolution happened to that particular traditional role can be done, right? And as I mentioned earlier on, there's also human capital development grants, etc., where you can actually have a HR consultant on board to help you to reconfigure and your workforce as well. Yeah. Right. Last one. I'm sorry, I'm going very fast. Yeah, but yeah, my time is running. I'll just give me a couple more minutes. Yeah, the last one. Just one slide for the last one. All right. So basically, this last one is about upskilling and reskilling. Now, what happened is this. Don't take training and development just for the sake of just. Yeah, definitely it works well in terms of upskilling and development of your skill set of your workforce, right? But at this moment, it's even more crucial for a couple of reasons. Number one, I think the job has evolved, right? So we want to make sure that whatever manpower that we have, that we employ on a full-time basis, they are doing value-added jobs. Their job has been, they are doing a higher caliber, higher quality job, right? Then that will actually bring forth more development for the company, help the company to drive business. On top of that, actually training and development, sending your people out for training actually helps to save costs as well, right? So for those of you who are not aware, there are a few things that you can claim. First and foremost, some of the cost fees are highly subsidized. And if you are Singaporean, Singapore PR, or above 40 years old, the funding can go as high as 90%. So which means that for less than $100 or $100+ dollars, you can send someone on the training, right? On top of that, during the number of hours or days that a person go on training, you can also claim the absenteeism payroll, right? So they will go by per hour charge, but there's a cap, yeah? So for 8 hours that you send this person on, you may get back another $100-200 from the government as absenteeism payroll funding, right? So in other words, the government is helping you to pay the salary of this worker for that few hours or few days that the person went on training. On top of that, if you think that, no, I can't send anyone out for training because my training is very targeted, very specific, then you can focus on the SkillsFuture Enterprise Credit, which is the $10,000 for you to actually transform and build your capability. So you can be an in-house trainer, in-house program, develop, approved by SkillsFuture, and then they'll give you the funding to pay you for the time spent on developing that particular course and delivering that training as well. So as I mentioned, training and development is just purely for the employee's sake. It's actually for the company as well. And also you can also be part and parcel of a cost management. Yeah. So I hope very quickly, I finished the 3 areas, and now I'm sorry if I'm going very fast, yeah, but I would like to share one last quote with you guys, right, by Jack Reg. Basically, he mentioned this: no company, small or big, can win over the long run without energizing employees who believe in the mission and understand how to achieve it. Basically, this particular quote is hold very dearly to my heart, because as a HR practitioner, I really believe that people are extremely important. And only if your employees on your side, they understood where you're going, that is where they will give their best, and they will be really helping you to value add in your journey and making sure your company is successful. Yeah. So thank you very much for the last 30 minutes or so. All right. So if you have any further questions, we are happy, more than happy to have a quick discussion with you later on during Q&A or at another timing. And at this time, I also like to introduce my Director of Outsourcing, Desmond Lee. He will be also with me later on for the Q&A session. So should you have any outsourcing or human resource related questions, we are more than happy to pick it up from there. Yeah. And thank you very much for your time. And back to you, Shalini.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thanks, Iris. It was a very beautiful, wonderful insight. And this definitely makes for some thinking, because this is very relevant to companies in today's economic and financial environment. Now, like Iris mentioned, if you do have any questions, do put it down in the question box below. We will be answering them later. So this will be really, really helpful. I know there's a few SMEs in the attendees, so this will be really helpful in case you need any help for your companies. Please fire away. All right, next up we have Desmond Lee from HReasily. Desmond is the Chief People Officer, also known as our Head of HR, as well as one of the co-founders of HReasily. He has over 9 years of experience under his belt across various industries, and he was responsible for launching products and opening markets in countries such as Malaysia and Hong Kong. And now, over to you, Desmond.
Thank you very much for your kind introduction, Sherlyn. So I'm Desmond, and I'm from HReasily. HReasily is a cloud-based HR solution with regional presence across Southeast Asia, such as countries like Singapore, Malaysia, Indonesia, Thailand, Philippines, etc. So I apologize in advance if I seem like I am flying through my slides. I only have 15 minutes, so please bear with me on that. Okay, so today we'll be discussing on talent management during these unprecedented times. And as I mentioned, HReasily is a regional company, and we had to do away with traditional and conventional talent management and actually embrace the modern way. This also has to do with the fact that we are actually a cloud-based HR system. So today we'll be mainly looking at 4 topics: managing employees remotely, hiring and redundancy, employee development and continuous learning, and lastly, engaging and empowering employees. So managing employees remotely, just like Mazars, so just like Iris mentioned, we also do have our 3 C's, just like we have 3 R's. So we've been HR for a long period of time, and we have adopted the culture of these 3 C's, namely communication, community, and culture. So as always, communication is key. So managing employees remotely can make some employees feel like they are out of the loop, which can actually cause uncertainty and anxiety. Hence, it is important for companies to actually ensure their managers and peers communicate regularly. In HReasily, we schedule weekly team meetings, which help keep employees and managers updated on ongoing projects, company news, and also as well as just to check in on each other. We often need to be reminded that communication is a two-way street, and this calls for open and honest conversations. So any express of concerns should be addressed, and we have to constantly remind the company employees that they are not alone, even if they are working remotely by themselves. So as a HR, our door should always be open to any employees who wish to air any grievances. So our second C is community, and having a good community will shape a company's culture. So how do we achieve a community? So at HReasily, we focus on a collective goal, which is our core values. So communities can actually adapt and evolve because they are guided by values rather than rules, and have the flexibility to reflect the interests of their members in ways cultures cannot. This would also help boost an individual's morale as well. So last but not least, culture. This means devising certain ideals for the workplace and expecting employees to conform to the rules, both written and unwritten. But putting rules before people is actually the quickest way as well to make the participants within the culture feel isolated. So a good company culture will always follow suit when you have a strong community. We'll also be touching more of these points as well as we go through the slides. So our next topic is new hires and redundancy. So new hires during a pandemic, during these difficult times, can be quite tough. Today, everything is done online, including hiring, which is now on Zoom, Skype, or Google Meet, and it is just not the same. So there's a huge difference. Someone meet them face to face for some companies, which is why at HReasily we actually implemented a remote onboarding process plan. So depending on the specification of roles and different reporting teams, potential hires may need to go through a few rounds of virtual interviews. Then comes the onboarding process, and the training has to be done and completed and signed off by HR. So to ensure that the role is best suited for the potential candidates and not to hire just to fulfill a headcount, understanding that a hiring process of a new candidate means to be able to invest proper resources, time, and money. This is even more so true today, as you wouldn't have as much face time I used to do with new hires. So independence and proactiveness has become the most sought after skill set. So for example, if you imagine hiring someone for, like, say 2 weeks or 2 months and just to realize they're actually not a good fit, this means that you'll be wasting a lot of 2 months worth of resources and, most importantly, 2 months worth of time. So right from the start, we actually have to be very straightforward and upfront about the company to actually better manage the company's, the employees' expectations. We also have to be able to communicate our company's culture and reiterate their responsibility to contribute to our community. So in layman terms, it means like look for people who share the same value as you do, who feel comfortable in the community and will also appreciate your culture. And by now, it is always best to look for remote readiness as well. This would include employees' access to technology, social isolation, support and supervision, and as well as how a company can further support this. So this is one of the tougher topics during these difficult times. To reiterate what Iris has mentioned in her presentation, so instead of looking at redundancy, we urge companies to explore different ways and alternatives first. In lines with Singapore's MOM guideline, this will be focusing on employee skills and development, to send employees for training, to upgrade their skills and employability as well. And also you can consider to redeploy employees within the organization, also known as internal transfer, which essentially allows employees to be given the chance to thrive in a different environment. Company expenses can be managed through various ways, like implementing flexible working hours, which is more common now that majority of us are working from home. And also to reiterate what Iris has mentioned earlier, as one of the last resorts, salary adjustment and no pay leave could also be a temporary solution to help mitigate this as well, and still be able to support your employees. So this topic, employee development and continuous learning, is one of the more important topics of today. To actually emphasize on MOM's guideline on employee skills and development, we actually have to focus on individual levels of technical skills and gaps in experience. And we will actually rely on appraisal and feedback of the employees and the managers, and then focus on upskilling them. Currently, as webinars and video calls are one of the main sources of communication, such as our webinar today, we can actually provide real-time webinars and videos that guide employees on the remote tools. These videos can also be recorded and can be accessible anytime. And this would be very helpful if you have not so tech-savvy employees who need a little guidance and push towards going digital. So in HReasily, we actually implemented a blackboard system utilizing Google Sites where only our employees have access to. So we put all the onboarding guides and the videos inside. This way, everyone has access to all the information they need, even if they are onboarded remotely. So other employee development would be to identify opportunities which you as a company believe would benefit both parties. Skills Future in Singapore is one of the many benefits which allow employees to choose different courses that will help develop new skills or better understanding of the carbon environment as well. Right, so why is continuous learning so important? Digitalization and transformation, as everyone know by now, is inevitable in the current times to stay relevant and for companies to stay competitive, if not just to survive. Hence, it is really important to ensure employees and companies are constantly upskilling and adapting to the changes of the current job. It would help better to further market opportunities and possibly do their current job better as well. So at a company level, we would love to help companies with their digitalization process. So here at HReasily, we are a HR payroll management system that would ease the process of companies who used to do their payroll and timesheet via Excel to a more sophisticated and automated platform. So we provide automated pay slips, accurate reports, on-the-go convenience by using your mobile apps, and payment options as well, which are less traditional. And in line with my first few slides, to efficiently manage employees remotely, it is essential to opt in for a system that's on the cloud. Now that everyone's used to technologies like Grab or Uber, the employees will be able to adapt almost immediately. So our payroll system will also save you thousands of manual hours and filing so that you as a company can focus on what is really important. We basically get everything done for you, from streamlining your payroll run to automating calculation for taxes and statutory funds, and also updating the system with regulatory compliance requirements. Our system usability is also made very simple so that your company can upskill and go digital easily. Of course, we won't leave you with just payroll. We have a variety of models made just for you. This would include leave management system, claim system, time attendance, as well as our facial recognition feature. So let's just do away with the manual calculation and look towards the future of technology. So speaking from a HR's perspective, these solutions have actually saved me a tremendous amount of time. For example, 1 out of 3 SMEs would actually benefit from having a centralized staff management system. In a way, for example, you can access anytime, anywhere on who got promoted and when, and also what is actually their joining date, etc. Also, the leave and claims application also saved me a huge amount of time in terms of processing. The employees can actually apply their leave and claims using mobile app, and the managers can just approve it on the go. So it just works very seamlessly. And in this way, you can focus on what is actually important, which is the well-being and also the upskilling of your employees, instead of spending time on manual mundane processes. So Xero, which is going to be the next speaker, is also a big part of HReasily, as they are integrated with our system, where we streamline data flow from our payroll to Xero's accounting software for easy use. And we also work closely together with our ecosystem partners like Mazars to use our software for the clients, and which is integrated with Xero. This helps to simplify the payroll and accounting process. And my last topic of today is engaging and empowering employees. Again, I apologize if it seems I'm rushing through my slides. So in the coming years, we have always been told that about having a work-life balance, and it's very important. And for the employees, work is definitely not everything. So we actually have to allow them to have a life outside of work. So if your employees come up to you and say that they have to leave work early because their kid they have to pick up the kid from football practice, I mean, why not, right? We trust our employees to actually get the work done. And recognition would also be very important, as this help motivate the employees and they are recognized for their work and effort. Sometimes it is the tiniest thing and appreciations in which the company needs to acknowledge. And it doesn't necessarily have to be in monetary terms as well. Inclusiveness would also be another way to foster a good community. So new hires especially will feel a little distant and shy from the start. And with our current work from home arrangement, things would probably just get worse by the day. So planning activities to promote inclusiveness in teams will be very beneficial for employees. So we always provide extra support and practice open communication. Also, always encourage your colleagues to exercise their creativity. so that they can collaborate with different teams of the company to promote like team creativity as well. So in HReasily, we actually schedule a meeting called Orange Room once every 1 to 2 weeks, where people from different departments gather together to discuss possibilities and also their current issues. So these are some of the activities that we have been conducting in HReasily. We actually have a bi-weekly Zoom call. We call it Chill Easily, where we actually hang out virtually and catch up as a company with our colleagues. We actually have like karaoke sessions. We also have mental health talks and play online games, etc. We use Discord as our form of communication chat room, and we have groups which are just purely for fun. There, for example, we have a group called Pantry where we talk about what's for lunch and what's everyone having, and also we have music channels where you can actually play songs and everyone can just listen in together. Of course, like mentioned before, we have weekly meetings and webinars, and we also have a virtual open door policy where we encourage new proposals and empower employees to actually take charge and responsibility to actually grow ideas to execution. So what I mean by open door policy is where, any employee in the company can just knock on the CEO's door if they think they have an idea that can help the company. So here are a few pictures of what we've been doing. This is a chill, easily session where everyone just chit chat. And we also have, for example, a tutoring session on cybersecurity and also on how to use Discord as well. Right, so in summary, today's topic hopes to provide your company better talent management practices that we in HReasily believe and abide in. We hope that you can better manage your employees remotely, have a clear and concise process for hiring and onboarding new employees, think of alternative solutions before redundancy, and focus on employees' development and continuous learning, and to always engage and empower employees. Remember that having your community will foster a good culture, and this in turn will ensure your employees and the company continue to thrive in a cost-cutting environment. So thank you very much, everyone, for listening, especially to take some time off in this shopping day. My name is Desmond from HReasily, and it's been a real pleasure to speak with you in this webinar, and I wish everyone the best during these difficult times. So back to you, Sherlyn.
Wow, thank you so much, Desmond. We hope that provided everyone with a fresh perspective of talent management, and just to also have a sneak peek of what we do here in HReasily. Okay, so last but certainly not least, we have Alvin from Xero Singapore. Alvin is a small business specialist at Xero. He was a senior associate in Deloitte for 3 years, and he relates personally with the inefficiency of traditional and paper-based accounting processes, and is really passionate about helping small business owners embrace new technology in the cloud. Now, everyone, please welcome Alvin from Xero Singapore.
Thanks, Shalyn, for the kind introduction, and thanks everyone for having me. I'm going to quickly share my screen. So I believe most of you can see my screen here. I'm under strict instruction to try to close this up by, close my keynote by 4:05, 4:06. I'll try my best to do that. So let me zoom in. Today's session, it's a keynote on why financial visibility in a cost-cutting environment, it's really crucial. My name is Alvin and I'm from Xero. So Xero, it's a 100% cloud accounting software. So like HReasily, we are 100% cloud and there is no on-prem version. So I'm just going to take a pun and say that, and assume that today everyone here, it's not using any form of a smart software or digitized product. And you are probably, so if you are doing accounts in a desktop software or even spreadsheets, things would be very manual and requires a lot of data entry. There is literally no form of automation there, right? So, and traditionally, if you think about a desktop software versus a cloud software, what happens a lot of times is that with desktop software, you might need a server, you might need storage, there is that capital expenditure, capital cost involved in it. And at the end of 5 years, at the end of 10 years, your manufacturer, the OEM might tell you that, hey, this is the end of life for this particular server brand. You need to have a tech refresh to use this brand. Unlike on-prem hardware. For cloud services, I think the cool thing is you pay a monthly subscription fee, and your data is hosted, etc. Your data is hosted, it's backed up by the cloud service at a fee, so you don't have to worry about storing your system. Okay, and to reiterate what Iris had mentioned earlier, today we are living in uncertain times and such trying times amid the COVID-19 situation. Many businesses are actually looking to scale down on their operations, in light of the economic downturn. In view of this, I really think that it's increasingly important to know your cash flow in these uncertain times to be able to make an educated and informed decision surrounding your business operations. Okay. So with that, we have did some research, and I think one of the biggest concerns of small business owners, I think in the last 2 quarters, last half, would be cost related, would be reducing costs. Okay, it's all money related. All right, and this research from EY, Ernst & Young, the operation costs are increasing. Okay, manpower costs, cost of raw materials, etc. Okay, just to name off a few. So it's really important to leverage on technology to actually improve your financial visibility. If you run a small business and you run to reduce your spend, you should focus on getting better visibility into your spendings. This will actually help you not just understanding where you're spending money, but also with identifying opportunities for cutting spend. And this would be what is classified as cost avoidance. All right, or opportunities whereby you could get a better price for the same product or service, and this is called cost savings. Surprisingly, a lot of companies have no clear idea on how money is being spent or where their money is going. All right. So with that, instead of showing you a slide, I'm going to jump out of here and show you my Xero account to give you a quick look on the dashboard. So you can see from here, I'm using Google Chrome to log in, and this is my Wi-Fi. All right. And once you log into Xero, this beautiful blue screen you see here, it's what we call the Xero dashboard. And with this dashboard, we aim to curate important information for you to make better business decisions. All right. I want to take your eyes to the top left here. You can see over here, we are quite popular for this technology. So we are connected to the banks for this technology called direct bank feeds. What happens is basically we are connected to 4 local banks, namely DBS, UOB, OCBC, and HSBC, whereby we automatically pull out the bank balance every day between 6 to 8 a.m. from your corporate bank account. And what you need to do when you go into office, when you log into this accounting software, would be to reconcile these numbers so that your general ledger balance ties up to your bank balance. All right. Moving on to the right, there is this accounts watch list. I like to tell a story on, as a business owner, as a financial controller, as you step into the office, you would like to have a high-level overview on what are some of the accounts that has higher activity, or what are some of the accounts that has that deals in higher quantum value. All right, so over here you can see for this month to date, we have gotten some sales. So I need to give my salespeople a pat on their back because they have gotten me some sales and they haven't spent much money on my expenditure account. All right. Moving downwards, here we have invoices owed to you and bills you need to pay. I think you will quickly realize that we try to do away with accounting jargon. So instead of debtors and creditors, we have really layman terminology such as invoices owed to you, bills you need to pay. Over here, Xero is telling me that there is about 16,000 worth of invoices I need to chase from my customers. All right. Moving down, this is looking like about 13,000 worth of bills I need to pay within the next 2 weeks to 1 month. My bank is telling me I only got $8,000 in my bank account. I do not have enough money to pay off this 13,000. So literally what I need to do is take action. The call to action here would be chase this amount here so that I have enough money in my bank to pay off this amount. All right. And that's just a quick snapshot of our dashboard. The next thing I want to show you in line with the keynote would be our cash flow prediction. So the caveat here would be Xero actually projects your cash flow on for the future. All right. So let's say we are picking up this business bank account and we are projecting it for the next 30 days. So we want to know potentially how much money do we have in the bank account. And this is taking into instances, things like whether we manage to chase off our invoices, whether we manage to pay off our bills. Okay, so let me click on show projection, and it actually shows me a quick snippet on what will be my projected balance 30 days from now. Okay, should my customers pay me on time? Should I pay my bills on time? Okay, and it actually tells you your outgoings and your incomings and your outgoings and some suggested action for you to have better cash flow. All right, so to be honest with you, that's it from me. I kind of breezed through my session. If you'd like to find out more about this session, feel free to reach out to myself, Desmond, or Iris. And with that, thank you very much for your time. I will stop this share and let Charlene take over the Q&A. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Alvin. That was very, very educational. I would say that that's really, really important and vital for the part of cost management, for the SMEs especially to be running a business. So yes, if you have any questions for Alvin, please feel free to, reach out, or you can also send a message or, drop your questions below in the box. I can see that we do have quite a fair few number of questions. So can I please invite the panelists to come on board again so that we can just take a few minutes to answer a few questions. Yeah. All right. Just hang on. Let me see. I think there's a couple of questions still flowing in. Iris will be there. I think Justin will also be there. Yeah. From Mazars. And then we have Desmond as well from HReasily. Perfect. Thank you so much. Now, we have a few questions on the floor. I think we won't exactly be able to answer all of them, but I will point out a few of these questions, and let's see how our panelists actually answer them. So the first one is actually for Iris. So it says over here, how would you recommend dealing with employees who are elder and may not be receptive to change?
Sorry, forget to unmute myself. Okay, very good question. I think a lot of times the resistance to change also have to start with the communicator. Meaning, because we already have the perception that, for example, this particular attendee, you say that maybe your elderly worker or older worker in the office are very resistant to change. But having said that, you may already also have the perception they are resistant to change. So in terms of the effort or taking the first step to unfreeze this resistance will not be you may not be that enthusiastic into doing that because your perception is that they are resistant to change. So what I would say is that one step at a time, whether throw away their perception first, all right, put it on the table, have an open discussion. I think why some people may be resistant to change because they are not sure where this change is going to lead them. So when you conduct this particular conversation with that particular employee, make sure that you come with a proper plan, very clear explanation of why. So give them the why, give them the how, all right, and then give them the end results. So, and then thereafter, leave it to them to digest for a little while, right? So give them that trust that they will go back and think about it. Just say, okay, let's take a few days, let's come back to this conversation a few days later, and then restart. So I guess you need to be a bit more persistent in that, right? To keep doing over again and again, explaining the logic behind it. And the second thing that's important is you need to garner a group of allies, people who will support your change. And with this group of people, what you need to do is basically, all right, get them to support your change, implement the change process with this group of people, let them showcase that the change actually is doing them good, right? So it's kind of a collaboration in this way, whereby you show, you talk, and then you at the same time make sure that you keep them in the loop, and eventually I do trust that they might actually buy in. Yeah, so persistent. Yeah.
All right. Yeah, that sounds really good. Sounds very, very, I think that's fair. I think it's always good to find the root of the problem to be able to kind of identify, why are they resilient, resistant to change. And, this is something that we should always encourage. I think the elder workforce here currently during COVID-19 has, I think, suffered quite a fair bit, I have to say, because I think people think that it's just easier to let go of these people, especially during this tough time. But I would like to say that, of course, like we've mentioned earlier, redundancy should still be the last resort. It still should be the last option. I think retaining your employees would probably be of a better cost than just firing or saying that this is something that doesn't work out anymore. All right, moving on to the next question. We have another one that says here, the COVID-19 pandemic has forced us to think about how we work and what we value in a workplace. Is there a plan for framework for returning to the office after the pandemic dies down? Maybe I'll leave this to Desmond from HReasily. Would you be able to maybe share a few insights on this?
Yes, sure. Thanks, Shalin. So let me start by saying that I slightly disagree with the question when it says that it forces us to think about what we value in a workplace, because in my opinion, what we value in a workplace is still the same. So people still want the same thing. They still want the job security. They want the best for the company. They want the company to actually thrive. And most importantly, it's the same community and culture that they are looking at. So in terms of that, I think what we need to focus on is how to be consistent, even if we're working remotely, both in the work when we're working remotely and in the office as well. So we have to make sure that we still have the same core values, and we still, like, for example, if you assess people based on their performance, then maybe we can just keep to that as well. And there is no saying when or how this pandemic is going to die down eventually. But what we've been doing now is we've been trying to encouraging people to go back to the office once in a while to actually have some brainstorming sessions. And even when it eventually dies down, it will be a good you can actually think it would be a good suggestion to actually let the employee work from home, like at least maybe 1 or 2 days per week as well. And as people are actually very used to working at home now, and they think that they can get a lot more things done, because some studies actually show that by working from home, they are actually more efficient and productive as well. So this is something that we should definitely look into. So I think, to answer your question, the best ways is if we can get the best of both worlds. I hope this answered your question. Thanks.
All right, sounds good. Thank you, Desmond, for your insight. I think that is true. It is quite apparent that things have changed quite a fair bit in the workplace, and people kind of like the best of both worlds. They like to be able to work from home, they like the flexibility, but somehow or another, I think coming back to the office as well would also do them some good. So that is very interesting. Thank you so much. Let me take one more question from the floor. This one is from Carmen. She says, any tips on how to encourage traditional businesses to shift to digital/online technology? Can I get Alvin to answer this?
Yep, sure. That's a great question, Carmen. I guess in such times, what I'm seeing, and I think Desmond would agree with me, is that when COVID happened and we had circuit breaker, we were actually that there was a halt put in front of us whereby we can't go to office anymore. So we needed smarter solutions whereby it was accessible from home. Because what I've heard from our customers prior to using a cloud software, and this is not just for pertaining to Xero or HReasily, it could be for a CRM software, could be for a finance software, invoicing software, etc. So what I've heard from our customers prior to moving to cloud is that they were asked to purchase a VPN license just to be able to access into the office servers. All right. So I think with what happened with circuit breaker, what happened is COVID, it actually helped a lot of customers and small business owners look into finding digitized product, etc. And also, I think if you look at IMDA's website these days, there are numerous grants available out there, such as the Productivity Solutions Grant, Digital Resilience Bonus, that encourages companies to upscale. And they are actually and IMD is actually giving you a payout of 2,005 to 10,000 to move software, to shift software, and these are all reimbursable to the company's corporate P&L account. Yeah. Hope that answers your question, Carmen.
Yes, I agree. I think it's true because there is a lot of grants that's going around, like your PSG and your DRB, and it actually helps businesses quite a fair bit. So yes, if you guys are looking for any help or any assistance, please do not hesitate to contact any of us. I have a couple more questions. Maybe we can do one more round before we close this off. Let me see. Flexible wage system sounds like a viable option, but would this bring down employees' morale? Maybe we get Iris. Would this help?
Sure. Anything that has to do with wages is always a bit hypersensitive for all of us. Yeah. So the moment you want to do a little slight touch to it, then you have a big commotion coming your way. Definitely, all right. But as I mentioned, there's a few ways to implement this flexible wage system. All right. For example, the one way is that you might want to implement this system for the newcomers, meaning that moving forward from now at a certain point, let's say for example from January 2021 onwards, that's how the whole wage system will be restructured. And as for the existing pool of employees, I think what may actually create or whether put them off with this system is if they are unsure how this system is going to have impact on them. So as I mentioned in my presentation earlier on, when you have the MVP, the 10% monthly variable component, it's very important to explain and communicate at which point will this MVP be triggered. So they are sure. So they know that, okay, it's not as if that at any time, as and when the company, like, I'm not sure whether this month I'm going to get 10% pay cut or not, So you explain to them, no, basically it has to be 3 consecutive months of, suffering a loss, for example, yeah. And before this will be, this MVC might be taken into consideration to be triggered. So I guess very clear communication how the whole flexible wage system works, right, is a very, very important key success factor to implement this wage system. Yeah. So I hope that answered the question. Yeah.
All right, sounds good. Thank you so much, Iris. And to be honest, it's really true. I think a lot of people in Singapore are not familiar with the flexible wage system. So if this is something that is doable to be implemented for the company, if it's needed in terms of using cost-cutting tool, then yes, it's something that it should be explored and should be communicated well to the employees before implementation.
Yeah, sorry, I just want to add on one more thing. And for those companies who are already doing a wage cut, when you revert back the original wages, you may take the opportunity to implement this multi-tier wage system as well. So that means instead of adding back, let's say for example, you did a wage cut of 10%. So instead of adding back the 10% to your base salary, you term it as a monthly variable component moving forward when you add back the 10%.
All right, sounds good. It's a very different structure, I would say, from a lot of what most companies are used to, but it do work. I mean, in the event of needing to do any cost cutting, this is something that companies can actually explore. All right, perfect. We've just got 2 more questions, so I think we'll just move on. The next one would be: can you share if there is a tip or benchmark for companies, I guess, to look at before they invest into upskilling and retraining manpower? This one, can we pass it on to Desmond, please?
Desmond, I think you're on mute.
No, what's the problem?
Yeah. Right. That's a quote of the year, right? You're mute. Sorry, but yeah, let me start off by saying that I don't think there's one single benchmark for for every company. It really depends on which industry you're at. And first thing, I think you should look at what are the available grants that the Singapore government is giving. I think I already shared a few earlier as well, such as like Skills Future. They are giving out grants where you can claim 50% or more of the courses. And also, if you are a more traditional business, I think a good way of looking at it is that maybe this is time where you actually have to pivot your company into something less traditional. So if you're doing that, then for sure you need one of the obstacles for a company to actually go digital or actually improve themselves in terms of technology is where there is not one single person who's in charge or who have knowledge on this product or this process. So it is the best if you can actually send someone to actually train themselves in and become, like, say, a Xero champion when it comes to Xero. And this way it will be much easier for a company as a whole to actually transition towards this process. And in terms of retraining them, okay, that's the same thing, right? Yeah. So I hope this actually answers your question.
Yeah, thank you so much, Desmond. Just to reiterate, I think it's quite interesting because I guess, it's a lifelong learning for different employees. I think this is just, something that I think you should always constantly upgrade yourself. So as a company, I think it is mandatory, I would say. I think it would be very highly encouraged for for the employees to keep development in their own personal development exactly. So, all right, moving on quickly, we have another one here. With 74% of business owners looking to reduce costs, can you suggest any area of priority that they should look into first to cut costs? I think this question is very obvious for Xero, Alvin. So I'll pass that along to you.
Okay, thank you. Anonymous, that's a great question. So I always have this line of thought whereby, in terms of cost, it's a very tricky situation, and there is no hard and fast rule on which cost should you try to eradicate, because you can't be cutting out supplies, because you will need supplies for raw materials to perhaps build a finished article or something like that. Instead, my suggestion, and Desmond and Iris, feel free to chime in, if you have a second opinion. My train of thought, it's always, look at the pain point in your current environment, whereby it's something you can try to eradicate, something you can improve, and try to replace that pain point with perhaps a digitalized product, with a new form of workflows, with new internal controls that might help you remove this pain point to make you more efficient. So it's basically removing the challenges, the obstacle, and gaining efficiencies along the way. This is actually my line of thought. I hope that answers your question.
Yes, that sounds good. All right. Okay, I'm just going to move on very quickly because we've got two more questions on the floor, and I would like to answer them all if we can. Let me see this one. How do we weigh in between outsourcing versus offshoring? Any key areas that we should pay attention when working with external parties? I will open this on the floor, to the floor, if anybody is interested to maybe share their insight. No. Iris, maybe you want to weigh in? You're on mute, by the way.
Hi, everyone. I think I had answered in regards to the key areas that we should pay attention to when we work with external parties. I think to have a really healthy relationship with our outsourcing partners, the scope should be very clearly defined and stated, so that in case there's any dispute, we can always refer back and make sure that this is, the work being performed is within the scope, and then it's being fairly conducted and stuff like that. So the key is really to, during the preliminary stage, sit down, go through a requirement with your partners, and all this lists down in your engagement letter, so that there won't be any dispute in the future. Yeah.
Maybe I pick up the point on the offshoring. I think for offshoring wise, right? I think there's a few key areas, because once you offshore, basically, I think whoever that's overlooking the operation overseas for you plays a very, very crucial part in it. So I think your offshoring partner, do take that into your biggest key evaluation criteria as well. And of course, to do offshoring, there's also additional costs that's involved, especially manpower costs, or even fixtures costs, like office costs, etc. So these are the few things that you have to keep in mind when you do offshoring. So so between the outsourcing and offshoring, really, the bottom line is we have to look at the numbers. We have to look in terms of the ability to have a good management with the respective vendors. Yeah. Okay.
Of course. Thank you. Thank you so much, Iris. Okay, we just have one last question, and I will also pass this over to you, Iris or Justin. This is, what if subsidiary performance is meeting budget, but the group under the performance due to other business entities? So it's not fair if the group is based on group performance, not to reward staff. What do we tell the staff? I guess, what do we revert to the staff if that's the case?
Oh, this is a challenging question. Okay. So I'll answer it generally, all right. I think bottom line is basically, as much as, this is, for example, if the Mazars local entity is doing extremely well, but if we are going along the line whereby we are one whole entity, then the performance of each other or different regions actually do have impact on the good. So I guess I think we have to come to a balance as to how we should be also speaking on the same platform, sending the same message. January, are we doing well? January, are we not doing well? What are our plans? So I guess there's no right or wrong to this answer. It's not a matter of fair or not fair. I think business being business, we really have to look at the strategies the business is going towards. The potential the business is in as well. So I think for this case, again, I will fall back to the same old word, communication. I think what doing HR for so many years, I think what the staff really appreciate is very open and transparent communication. If we can explain to the staff, where we are coming from, what are our plans, and be very clear in our communication, that will actually help to garner support and understanding from the staff level as well. Yeah. So even if we do so well and the whole group is not doing well, it's not bringing us anywhere. Yeah. So I think communication is the key.
All right. That sounds really good. Thank you so much. And I guess this is gonna conclude our Q&A for now, because I think there was quite a fair bit of questions that was answered. So I hope this answers all the questions for everybody who was watching. Thank you so much, panelists, for taking the time to answer this as well. So right now we have come to the end of our webinar session. We hope that our webinar today was able to provide you some valuable insights and perspective to the different works of today. It is quite tough, I would say, and I would agree. And it seems that everybody is kind of trugging on, and it's really good, and it's heartening to see that everybody around is trying to do their best, and everybody is here to help each other. So if you guys have any other questions, please do not hesitate to reach out to any one of us. If you would like to stay tuned for other webinars, you can also drop by our website at www.hreasily.com/webinars. Last and not least, I would like to thank our panel of speakers. We have Iris from Mazars, we have Desmond from HReasily, as well as Alvin from Xero, for being here today and sharing us such great knowledge and imparting wisdom to all of us over here. Remember, communication is key. So thank you everyone as well for all the attendees who are joining us, who have joined us here today. And this is Shalene again from HReasily. We'll be signing off right now. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.